early careers as a young Black mathematician, because if we're being honest, sometimes the realities are very different for us. And so how do we go about this? How do we make sure that we're doing good work, and that most importantly, the good work that we're doing are being seen by the right people? And these are some of the things that I'm going to be touching on today. So about me, about Tobi. So as I said earlier, I'm from Nigeria. I lived in Lagos for most of my life, and I only just left Nigeria in 2022, which was last year, as fully relocated. My first degree is in mathematics. I got it from Babcock University, also in Nigeria. After my first degree, I got my first degree in 2020. I graduated into COVID. I had a remote graduation, and then I worked in fintech for 2 years. And then last year in 2022, I moved to the UK for my master's degree. I did that at the University of Nottingham, financial and computational mathematics. And last month, which was September, was when I completed the degree, and was also when I started my current role as a quant at a trading firm called SDS Group. So next, as I said, when I was starting, I would love for this talk to be very much about my journey, showing you guys where I've started from, where I currently am, where I'm going through, and then we can just like pick out some lessons from it. And then at the end, we'll go over everything together, and I would be very happy to take whatever questions that you may have. So first, the first image over here, I would use my mouse and hopefully you can just follow along. I graduated from high school in 2016, and I did a 4-year degree. So I graduated in 2020. And while I was a student, I held 4 positions. I started in my second year. So in my first year, just like every fresher, you come into school, you're still, so by the way, I should also add that my journey into mathematics was also very incidental. And I love to believe that it was really like orchestrated and by God, because it was, so I got into school to study biochemistry, and then I met a mathematics professor who just saw something in me, just like Professor Nira saw something in me. And he was the one who took me up, and I changed my course, and then I started studying mathematics. So my first day was really just about me finding my balance, finding my foot, because this was not the initial plan that I had going into university. And then in my second year, I joined the executive. So we have something we call ESCO. I know in different schools, some call them societies. In Nigeria, we usually refer to them as associations. And then we have the ESCOs, who are the executives that manage those associations. And I joined them in my second year. I started first as the social prefect, social director. I was working on socials, planning events, coordinating with the VPs and everyone who was just like much more senior than I was. And I'm quite the social one. So it was a role that came very natural to me. And then in my third year, which was the second year after that, I was voted in as the vice president of the association. So I worked closely with the vice president at the time, who was in our final year. We did a lot of setting up of things, really like bringing the department together and making it very cohesive. And then in my last 4th year, which was 2019, 2020, I was voted in the president. And if there's any student who is on here right now, one of the biggest advice, or one of the biggest things that you can do for yourself, one of the best things you can do for yourself, is to honestly get into a leadership position while you're in school. And when I say leadership position, doesn't mean you have to be the president or you have to be the vice president. It could be a society, something that just makes you not go from going to class and coming out, something that gives you responsibility, even something little as something that makes you have to send emails. Because by the time you're going into the job market, you're going to be far ahead of a lot of your peers. More than half of the graduates that come out of school every single year, literally sometimes are not able to put together a professional, formally written email. And for people who have been involved in associations, who have been involved in societies, who have been involved in a lot of these things as little as knowing how to behave in a meeting, knowing how to plan things, knowing how to put things together, some of the things that you learn while you're participating in a lot of these roles and positions and functions. And as such, it helps you stand out. It makes you seem like someone who, it doesn't make you seem, it makes you be someone who is a lot more proactive and someone who is able to take ownership of certain things. So for one, I would definitely advise, or I would start by saying that the first thing that I would really share to any early career mathematician right now who's trying to navigate the space is to get into extracurricular activities. And this can also be in sports. So I also had colleagues, I was also a sports person, but I was more of like, a spectator as opposed to like an active representative of the school in external sports events. But it could be in sports, It could be in societies, it could be in charities. Just try to ensure that you're building a cohesive profile for yourself before you come out of school. And then to the next journey, to the next stop in my journey, I then eventually graduated in 2020. My graduation it was one for the books because, as I said, it was in 2020. It was at the peak of COVID, and my graduation was virtual. And at the time, I remember coming out, and a lot of us in my year were very like, we felt so much uncertainty because when you come out of school, you apply to graduate programs, you apply to analyst programs. At the time, all of these things were not open, all of these things were not running. Companies, executives, leaders didn't even know what was going on at the time because this was around like June, July, and I think most of the world had gone off or just sat at home starting from April. So as of April, May, June, July, August, there was still like so much uncertainty of like, how long is this thing going to last? What's going on? How big is it? How small is it? And so for a lot of us graduating at that time, there was so much uncertainty for our career. And at this point, I was just like, we have to make this work. Something has to, it's already bad enough. Something good has to come out of this. So I took my phone and I made a post. And one of the things that I would really love for us to draw from this is it's so important to always tell your story. And if there's one thing that I've done so well for myself that I'm always proud of and I'm always trying really hard to even do better is to tell my story. And as Professor Nira said when he introduced me, he said he found me on LinkedIn because I used to just like post and post and just like talk about, if I attend an event, I'll take pictures, I'll post. I just always did like so much, and that's how he found me. And that was also how I started my career. So I made a post about my graduation. I talked about, just like the experience that I had at the time, and the post went viral on Twitter and then on Instagram. And that was how I got my first job. The owner of the company that I eventually started with found me from from my post, and then reached out to me, sent me an email. I did the interview, and then I was hired as a graduate analyst, graduate intern. And then that was how I got into tech as an industry. And so yes, please share your story. If you take a class in school, you take a module, you take a class, you do exceptionally well, or you learn something new, make a post, go to the front of the class, tell your classmates to take a picture of you standing near the board next to the fancy formulas, post it on LinkedIn, put it there and say, oh, this is what I learned, this is the project I built, this is what I currently have. Just really share your story. And our work does not always speak for us. And I know that so many times people tell you, oh, just do a good job, your work will speak for you. Well, we've gotten to a point in our life right now and in the world as a whole where like so many people are doing a great job. There's so many tools. There are people who can literally like walk into an office that they've never been to before, and just with some tools, with some online search, they would hack and be able to do an average, not necessarily a fantastic job, but well enough that they can get away with it. And so now is not the time, especially for us as people who are coming from sometimes marginalized society, underrepresented communities. You cannot afford to just do a good job and just look away. You have to tell your story. Always tell your story. Always make a post. Tell someone what you've done. So as I said, I worked in fintech for 2 years. And while I was working in fintech for 2 years, there were so many things that I did. One, I formed strategic peer mentors. Now, if you can, I mean, you can see these pictures, you can see that I've had quite the journey. I tend to go for lots of events. I come in contact with lots of people. And one of the mistakes that I see a lot of young people like me make is that when we're at the event, we're trying so hard to reach the speakers. We want to talk to the big people, we want to talk to the professors, we want to talk to the CEOs. And please don't get me wrong, all of those things are good. All of those things are fantastic. You should be speaking to people who are ahead of you, should speak to people who have done what you've done. But there's so many people in your corner, there's so many people in your circle, there's so many people who are 3, 4, 5 years ahead of you. So the lady in the picture, which is the strategic peer mentor picture here, that's one, which is one of my closest friends. She says, oh yeah, we're friends, but I think that she's more than my friend. She was also my mentor. She continues to be my mentor. She was 3 to 4 years ahead of me. We were working in the same company at the time. And I really she was the one who really helped me really see the importance of having peer mentors. And so it's important that when you're finding mentors, when you're building your network, you're not only networking upward, you need to also network sideways. So you need to also look for some of your peers. And a lot of time, there are also more people who are 2, 3, 4, 5 years ahead of you are usually more conversant with some of the new technology. And so for people who have older mentors right now, you probably agree with me that sometimes you're probably the one who is putting them onto new things like, oh, do you know you could just do that with this tool? Do you know you could just give like ask ChatGPT to just write something for you. You could just, you're introducing them to new products, new tools that they don't even know of, because we're in completely different generations. But when you have strategic peer mentors who are your age mates, they can then put you onto these new things, new ways to negotiate, new opportunities, new job, you know, path, new career path, just different things that you're able to learn if you're networking sideways as you network upwards. So please network with the seniors, network with your executives, network with the company owners and the people who are doing things that you want to do. But most importantly, I want you to also network with your peers. It's so important that you're also building mentors with people who are not too far ahead of you, because then you're able to be with people who really understand the horizon and the thing, whatever it is that's relevant at that given time. And for every generation, there's always something new. So next, it was intentional networking. So you can see I'm the one here on a white shirt, and I'm speaking. This was at a tech event hosted by Tech Point, an organization in Lagos. But I used to attend so many events, conferences, just like this one. This is very good, a conference. This was actually also a conference, but it was an in-person conference. And the reason why we're all wearing shirts is because it was a tech event. So for people who are familiar with tech industry, this is the formal attire for them. It's just a t-shirt and jeans. So lots of intentional networking, meeting people intentionally, going out to events. And again, as I said, peer strategy, peer networking. So if you look at this picture, all of these people that you can see here, we are all around the same age range. So it's important that as you're networking upwards, you're also networking with people who are also your age mates, people who are also in the same generation as you are. And please attend conferences, attend seminars, attend events, attend happy hours, go out, just really meet people in your industry, because there's so many opportunities presently and even in the future. And so you will be so shocked, like there's something, your next role could potentially come from someone who you've met, you told them about what you do, you guys keep in touch, and then something comes up in their company, they can just be like, oh, there's something, or they could just put you up with like so much opportunities. And honestly, just knowing people, having a wide network of people across different walks of life is so important. So network, and network very intentionally, very intentionally. Don't just go to the events and just to listen to what they're saying. Make a list of the people that you would love to speak to. That's something that I do so much. When I'm going to an event, sometimes I would literally ask, is it possible to get a list of, if it's a like closed door event, is it possible to get a list of people who are going to attend? If it's not a closed door event and it's like a big conference, sometimes I would go on LinkedIn, I would type out the event, and then I would see people who already made a post saying, hey, I'm going to be attending this. Or if it's like an event where there was like an application and there was an accepted, set of people. Sometimes people will make a post, I've been accepted into this, I'm going to be here, I'm going to be here. And then I can make a list and say, okay, these are the people that I want to speak to. And then when you're speaking to them, because you've already done that pre-research, you can speak to them better. You can talk to them about more things because you really know them well. You know where they work, you know where they schooled. And so you're able to like, you know them. And sometimes they're just like, oh, we had such a great conversation, but they don't know that the reason why you had such a great conversation was because you had some, background information about them. So be very strategic when you're going for events and speak to people with intention to like really connect and be of value to them. So this happened, over the course of 2 years. And then I moved to the UK, to University of Nottingham for my master's. And again, as I said earlier, make sure that you're doing something outside of classes. So I held two positions. I was the PGT faculty rep for the Faculty of Science, and I was also sitting on the schools. And so there's something that I would touch on my next slide, but I will just briefly talk on it now right now. It's so important to always like, don't be afraid to start small. So when I was talking about like my journey as an undergrad student, I told you that I started from I started from a social post and social director, and then I moved to vice president and then to president. So I could have just decided to wait, or when I'm my final year, I'll do something. And there was actually like at the time there was a similar story where someone had just come out and tried to run for the post of president. And obviously there was just no way they were going to win, because when you've started something at an early stage, you've done this in your first year, your second year. When you come in your last year, be it your third or your fourth year, and you want to run for the big post, the people are already familiar with you. They're willing to give you their votes. They've seen what you can do. They've seen your track record. And so it's so important to start very little, be willing to start very little. So I started as the faculty rep. I didn't really care. I just wanted to do something. And I was working with the course reps, working with faculty members. And then I was reached out to by the school to say, hey, we have some committees. We have the research committee, we have the knowledge exchange committee, and we want to have students on these committees. so that we're not just talking from like, elderly people's point of view. We really want to understand what students are going on so that we can cater to some of the challenges that, the students are going through. And that was how I then got to sit on the school's knowledge exchange committee, which was a very big deal because it's, like really senior folks were there, and I would just sit with them and we have these meetings and lots of ideas. I learned so much about really like working at a very executive and senior level. So please like do something extracurricular in school, work outside of your classes, participate in something, be it in sports, be it in like executive or like departmental or societal positions. Just do something that can benefit you because you actually get to learn a lot. But most importantly, when you're trying to find jobs, you already have some work experience, and you're just a lot more employable. So while I was doing my master's program, I participated in so many events. If you're schooling in a big city, honestly, you're so blessed because most of the major companies are there. They would usually have all sorts of student events. So I participated in an academy with Deloitte. I participated in a competition with McKinsey. I was a delegate for UN Women UK, which was in February for the CSW that happens on the International Women's Day, and then also like the entire month. It's a month-long event. And really doing all these things obviously like boosted me as a person. It made me more employable. It made my LinkedIn look even better. And then most importantly, it always gave me something to post about because when you go here, you take pictures, you post something. You go here, you take pictures, you post something. You're always constantly on people's mind. People are always seeing your post come up. And when opportunities come, so you know how they say to whom much is given, more is even given. For people who already have, they're more likely to get more. And so the more I was going for one event, the more likely I was going to go for another because someone would just see me and be like, oh, Tobi, there's this thing going on. There's this thing coming up. And you just keep getting more opportunities. And people will ask you questions like, how do you find all this? And you just be like, I just get them. And they honestly would not understand what you mean by, well, how do you just get them? So just start attending lots of events. Go on LinkedIn, all the companies that are on your radar, depending on your industry. If you want to work as a quant, you want to work in an investment bank or a trading firm, or if you want to be if you want to work in the academia, you want to go into like a PhD degree, postdoc, become a professor, or you want to work in health, you want to work as a biostatistician or a biomathematician, or you want to work in like the engineering sector, you want to go work with like the car companies, the industries, the manufacturers, you want to help them build their models, whatever it is you want to do, find all these companies, connect with them, go on LinkedIn, follow all of their pages, go into their people, look for the recruiters, connect with all of them. You can even drop them a note, hey, I'm connecting with you because I would love to stay connected or stay like up to date with whatever opportunities you have. There's so many people who are not doing that. And so just by you doing that already, you're already like way better than a lot of people who would eventually apply for these opportunities because then they will have you at the bottom of their mind when they see your applications. They're like, oh yeah, this is the girl who reached out to me. And then obviously because you follow them on LinkedIn, because you follow them on Instagram or Twitter, whenever they have opportunities coming up, they will make a post about it. When you connect with the recruiters, they'll make a post about it. You get to see it. So I attended so many events, so many events. This picture, this one here was taken at a conference, another conference with Goldman Sachs. And as you can see, that row is just filled with students. So I was networking. It was so important to me that I was networking with people who were in the same generation as me, while also networking upwards with people who were much more senior. So please make sure that you're networking and you're attending like as many events as you can. And then next, this particular event, I made sure to put this picture because this picture, the woman who is speaking here is also a mathematician, and she's currently the CEO or CFO of one of a very big investment bank in the UK right now. So that was, I was going to use this picture. And this event, very similarly to what we're also doing here, was an event only for women. So it was a women in finance. And here we also have Black mathematicians. And I'm going to touch on something about this in my next slide. But attend events like this where you are surrounded by a group of like-minded people. And so this conference is a very good example of that. Everyone here is Black, or most likely Black, to be Black. And everyone here is also involved in mathematics in one way or the other, be it as a student or as a working professional. And so it's so important that you're in those kind of communities. And even the job that I have right now, this is how I got my job. The job that I currently have, I didn't even apply for it. I was referred to this job by a community that I was a member of. They sent my CV to the recruiters. They had interviews with me and we're just like, yeah, we're definitely going to hire you. It was such a long process. I kept speaking and speaking. I spoke to like so many people in this company and they just really wanted me to come on board and they literally relocated me to another country and brought me here. So please make sure that you're connecting with like-minded people. So attend broad events, meet people from different walks of life, but also make sure that you build a community. So when you see them having events like women in finance, black men in finance, black in mathematics, black in engineering, black in academia, women in academia, make sure that you're going to these events, because sometimes the experiences are different. And so even sometimes when I speak to people who are mathematicians but are not black or are not women, they'll just like they'll give you certain advice, and I'll just be like, yeah, if I do that, I know it's not going to work. I've done that and it did not work. But it's worked for them for whatever reason, be it due to their background or where they're coming from. But our experiences are different. And so when you're able to connect with people who have similar experiences as you do, they can give you realistic advice that are relevant to your situation or your experience or your background or whatever resource that it is that you have. So please connect. It's so important that you do that. And in the second to the last picture, as I said, I started a job. I'm a quant, and this was me last month. This was in September. I was in Barcelona for a work trip. So I guess I can say that I've gotten to the point where I'm starting to reap a little of some of the hard work that I've put in place. But obviously, I still have such a huge journey ahead of me, and I still have a lot of work to do. But I believe that as mathematicians, we have so much that we can leverage upon truly. Every single time I walk into a room, I just have to speak to someone in any way or form. I'm like, oh, I'm a mathematician. Oh, I have my degree in math. It's just like, wow, like there's always that feeling of admiration, a feeling of we get so much smart. I love to refer to it as smart privilege. People, if you can study math, you can study anything, literally. So make a good use of this privilege that you have. Being a mathematician is truly a privilege in this world today. So please make good use of this privilege that you have and really like build upon it and make the most of it. Put yourself out there. And I promise you, there's so many opportunities. There's so many companies that will go above and beyond just to bring you on their team, who would do so many things for you, and you would have a really, really good career and a good life. And this picture, I actually took this picture on Monday because I was like, oh, I don't have a picture as a concert. I was like, yeah, I'll just take something. And this is me during my onboarding, and you can see my name tag here. We're still doing a lot of training for us right now. So yeah, this has been my journey so far. And then next, so I would love for us to sort of briefly touch on some of the key lessons that most of which I already shared while I was speaking, but just to like really have a cohesive list of some of the things that I would really love you to walk away from here today if you're an early career, a working professional, or a student. Number one, as I said, which I talked about earlier, start small. Start from the, assistant, start from deputy, start from that small position. And one day when you decide to run for the big position, nobody would be able to compete with you. Even if they tried, they would just not be able to, because you have done this much longer. The students, the people in the office, wherever it is that you find yourself with, are much more familiar with you. So like as the good book says, don't despise your day of little beginnings, or don't despise your day of humble beginnings. Be very comfortable starting small, start from somewhere, and then build upon that to progress to whatever dream or vision that you have. Sit in the front. It's something that I always do. So if you look at this picture here, this is me here in black. In the middle, I'm in the front. This is also me here in this blue outfit here. I just always sit in the front. It just makes me feel, if you're at the front, you have to pay attention, be it in class, be it at an event. I mean, if you're at work, maybe sitting at front is not really a concept because you have a desk. But whenever you find yourself in a place, an event, in class, whatever, sit in front. If you're in front, you have to pay attention. You can't be in front and be chit-chatting. The person who is speaking is looking right at you. And so your normal human composure would make you just stay quiet and listen. And so you're more likely to benefit a lot. And for when you do want to connect, if you do want to connect with the speakers, if someone is speaking and there's someone sitting in front of them, maybe they spoke for 30 minutes, they spoke for 1 hour. They spent 1 hour or 30 minutes of their time just seeing you. When you walk up to them after the event to introduce yourself, you're not a stranger. They know you, they've seen you during the event. While they were speaking, you were probably nodding. If they said, oh, it's time for question and answer, you put your hands up. They would be able to see your hands much faster than someone who's at the back. So you're more likely to have an opportunity to ask questions. And then after the event, you can say, hey, thank you for the answer you gave to my question. I really thought it was smart. This is what I've done. I'm going to put in and do this as you've shared. And just like that, oh, can we connect on LinkedIn? Can I have your email address? It's just a very good starting point. So try to sit in front, do hard things early. And this advice right now, I feel like is an advice that everyone in this call right now, everyone in this conference has started. If you're doing math, you're doing something very hard. And if you're early, you're doing it very early. Even if you're late, even if you're, not late is probably not the best word to use, but even if you're much more senior and you have a math background, you have done something hard very early on. And if you can really build on this, your career will thank you for it, your future will thank you for it. You have a promising field, a field that allows you to diversify. So as a mathematician, you could go work in tech, you could decide to work as a developer, you could decide to work in the finance team, you could go work in banks, you could work in healthcare and in the statistical side of it. You could go work in the engineering teams, help them build their models. You have such a great template to build upon whatever it is that you want to do. So everyone who is in this room right now, I believe, is already doing something very good, and they've started doing something very hard, very early, which is very good. So act with the future in mind. Whenever you're, I like to say 3 to 5 years. I know there are some people, I've met people who I've spoken to and they know what they're going to be doing in the next 20 years. I was speaking to, at the event I shared with you earlier, or the knowledge exchange, there was a lady I spoke to there who said her long-term goal is to be a chief investment officer of a bank. And I was just like, wow, like the fact that she already knows that that's something that'll probably happen in the next 15 to 20 years of her life. And she already has that sort of goal, set. So there are people who are already planning way ahead. For me personally, I like to do 2, 3, 5 years at most. I don't know anything after 5 years. I believe that I will be fine, but I like to focus on what I can currently control. And so whatever decisions that I make on a daily, the things that I do, the events I attend, the people I speak to, they're not just random. I'm doing them with a future goal, with a cohesive picture in mind. So when you're going about your daily activities, when you're going about your career choices, make sure that you're thinking at least 3 years ahead. This thing that I'm doing right now, how does it fit into the picture that I want to have, or the picture that I have in mind for myself in 3 to 5 years from now? Shoot as many shots as you can. If you don't ask, it's always no. But if you ask, it might be yes or no. And then this is where the pure mathematicians will go, oh yeah, what's the probability? Well, yes, there's that. But shoot as many shots as you can. Ask for as many things as you can. When you don't ask, you're the one who's losing because you're the one who doesn't get, right? But if you ask and they say no, no, it's not the end of the world. Literally, get to a point. If you're a woman, if you're black, we are marginalized, and so many times we are underrepresented in lots of key positions. And so if you refuse to ask these things, you're the one who's losing. And so ask for as many things as you can, make as many requests as you can, introduce yourself to as many people as you can. Just keep shooting those shots, asking one day, if you should, even if you go to a basketball court, because I used to play basketball, if you go to a basketball court and you start throwing a ball at the ring, even if you don't know how to do it, if you keep throwing it, when you throw your first 20, one, even if you just one, will make it into the ring. Not because you're good at it, but because you threw as many as you could. And so just literally always look at life as if you're standing in front of a basketball ring and just keep throwing, even if you're not, and then obviously then if you're then throwing as many shots as you can and you're actually throwing them well, then imagine how much you could potentially make, how many shots you could potentially hit on, and how much opportunities you could really get. So like just keep at it and invest in your look and your personality. One of the things that I saw, I think it was on TikTok or Twitter, was like, so like people can't see intelligence. So like when they see you, the first thing they see is your look. When they speak to you, when they speak to you, the first thing they see, not the first thing, but when they speak to you, what they can really see is your personality. And so even if you're the smartest person, until they probably ask you a few questions, which you might not actually get the opportunity to do that. And so people should be able to just see you and have a good impression. And you do that by having a good look. So try to always just look your best, look nice, just groom yourself to as well as you can. I won't go too much into that. And then next, work hard first and then work smart. If you're in the early career, if you're in the early stages of your career, please work hard. One of the advice I see people give so much on social media that I don't think applies to us is work smart, work smart. Work smart is delegating. If you're a graduate or you're an intern, who are you delegating tasks to? You're the one who is getting most of the tasks. So who exactly are you delegating to? If you're in the early stages of your career and you're already, every time you need to do something, you go ask ChatGPT, write this email for me, write this letter for me. You're going to get to a point where you're going to become a manager, and you'll be a manager with poor writing skills, poor communication skills, because you spent most of your early careers just asking all sorts of AI tools to just do everything for you, right? It's important to work hard, put in the work, and then as you go further in your career, you have more resources, you have more hands, and then you can start to work smart. But in the early stages of your career, please work hard, work so hard, and then always collaborate before you compete. Find people who are doing things better than you and first collaborate with them. And this is the mistake that even I have made so many times. I made this mistake during my undergrad, I made this mistake during my master's degree, but then I'm getting older, right? And so I'm knowing better now. Make sure that you are collaborating with people. Collaborate with people who are better. When you come in contact with someone, be it better than you or you're better than, your first instinct should not be to compete with them. Even if you're both sorry, even if you're both working the same job, you have the same manager, you want to get a bigger bonus than them, all of that. You have the same teacher, you want to get a bigger grade. Please collaborate. There's so much to learn from people. So please collaborate first and then find your community. Uh, Make sure that you find a community of people who are similar to you, as I shared earlier. Make sure that you're connecting with people who have similar experiences as you do. They can really help you to get better at the things that are some of the challenges that you face that are very peculiar to you. And then lastly, have an anchor. So if you're Muslim, if you're Christian, if you're, a Jew, whatever, make sure that you have something that is way more stronger than you, something that can keep you grounded and really hold you down. And that brings me to the end of my presentation. I will hand over to Professor Nira now. I'm still going to be on the call, but I need to go to another meeting room because I booked this place to 1 and there's someone outside who needs to get in. So I will just go to another room and then I will hand over to Professor Nira now to help just close it up. And if you have any questions, please ask me a question.